Hi, everybody. I'm Deacon Dave.
Layperson Lisa.
Welcome to
The
the Deacon
Deacon
Dave
Dave
and
and
Layperson
Layperson
Lisa
Lisa
show. And we are on to episode 5, which is on page 32, which is entitled, hopefully you can see that, A God Beyond All Praising, which I love. So this immediately starts out, Lisa, with God is beyond our understanding. And I always know when we talk to people, it's like, okay, if you think you've figured out God, then, well, you're wrong. You haven't figured him out.
Sorry.
That right there is the definition of you don't really know God if you thought you figured him out, because he's not a creature among creatures, right? Like a lot of the gods would compete with one another, and right. So these are all gods. But Lisa,
What do you mean by that?
So
Like the
he's not a creature.
Right.
God is God, so he is ipsum esse,
Ooh.
coming from Saint
Thomas
Thomas Aquinas.
Aquinas.
It's being itself. So God is the act of being, not the act, but he is being itself. So if we think about the last episode,
I am.
Yes, I am, exactly. So all the way back to the Old Testament, and that was actually mentioned in the retreat we had today too, which I thought was good. The teachers did a great job, by the way.
Good.
Really enjoyed them, but he is being itself. So he breathed everything into life through Jesus, right? And so God is not competing with anything or anyone. He actually holds all existence, to himself.
He is greater than the sum of all creation.
Yeah, which is pretty wild, right? He created creation,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you will.
yeah.
And yet he is still greater than it. He's infinite.
Yeah.
Right.
All powerful, omnipotent.
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 And so once again, it's like we were talking earlier about how there's a difference between knowing of Jesus and knowing Jesus. Mm-hmm. And once again, the author here reinforces the fact that there is a difference between knowing God and knowing about God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think that's like a problem that maybe like poor catechesis causes. Would you say like like in your head that God loves you, but maybe you don't feel it in your heart?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
If what you are learning through catechesis and teaching doesn't seep down into your heart, into some active personal relationship that you have with God, then yeah, you're not going to really know him. In fact, I was talking to one of the teachers today, and I asked her, I said, "What's your biggest struggle with the kids in terms of teaching theology?" I said, "Is it something along the line of like, well, I don't even, how do I experience God?" And she goes, "Yeah, that's exactly right." So it's like they don't, and I think this is to a certain extent normal, right? This is something that as we continue to grow, we learn more how to experience God and who he is in our lives. And so it's a process for everybody, and it's different, right? So Lisa, question for you. Mm-hmm. So how can we come to know God?
Through creation.
Okay, that's a good one.
Because we can learn based on what we see and experience.
It's called the economy of salvation, Lisa.
The economy of salvation, aka
Yes.
economics of salvation.
Right.
But just like the magnificence of nature, like that can be just amazing when you really let it soak in.
Right. I mean, you think about the brain, the human brain is so complex that we are still trying to figure out how the brain works in all of its functionality. And so just even our human body is so incredibly designed to be self-sufficient in terms of how we operate, if you will, that it's really amazing. So there's this invisible nature and power, right, that is perceived in the things that we bring in by our senses that are around us.
Well, it's like we really do live in a supernatural place.
We do.
We just don't see it.
It's like, what, 97% of it we don't see? I was actually
telling
like
some like ridiculous
today.
amount.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing that the power and awe that like it's just like awe-inspiring of what God has created.
So this wasn't in the book, although it was probably mentioned by the author earlier, but Lisa loves this concept, so I'm going to bring it up. It's called a priori.
Oh, yes.
Right. A space priori, Priori, like prior with an I on the end.
Yes.
And this is those things that are embedded into us, right? That we just naturally know, like the author.
Natural law.
Right. Yeah. Natural law. Right. And like the author said at the beginning, we have this search for purpose and meaning. We have this we're wired for God.
Our hearts are restless until we rest in Him.
St. Augustine.
Yeah.
And so there's all of these things that are just a part of our makeup.
We're throwing all the doctors of the church out here.
We are. This is an advanced class for you that are in the Spiritual Mentors program. So you're going to buckle down your seatbelts and get prepared to work hard, okay? But yeah, it's like really, I didn't think that was funny, Lisa.
I thought it was very good. I thought it was clever.
Serious. I thought it was
very clever.
Thank you.
Because that's part of our, like the saints, the wisdom of the saints.
Right.
Tying it in.
That's very good. So here's the thing about God. So God is the uncaused cause. So everything is contingent on God. And if you get this as like St. Thomas Aquinas' 5 proofs for the existence of God, and that's going to be your homework.
Yes, thank you.
For you to look up the 5 proofs for the existence of God by St. Thomas Aquinas. Very interesting. But like, so God is the first mover.
Yes.
Of everything. Including everything that we do that is good. God is the first mover. So everything first depends on God causing it to exist.
And then our response?
Well, yes. I mean, we can have responses, right? But God is always like the first mover. There were some heresies out there that said sometimes we were the first mover. Like, I think Pelagianism might have been one of them.
Okay.
But yeah, these are like little subtleties. But God is always the first mover of all things good. And yes, we respond to that goodness, but we are still empowered by God's grace.
Yes.
Right? Because He's ipsum esse. He's being itself. So the very act of being, which we are all beings who are doing things, comes from God.
Yeah.
Right? So He's moving everything. Okay, so reminder of the homework. St. Thomas Aquinas, look up and read on the 5 proofs for the existence of God.
And explain it to us.
Yes.
On this next Zoom.
Can't wait for it. I'm Deacon Dave.
Layperson Lisa.
See you next time.
Bye.